Commissioners, Chief McDonald, Mr. Sibley, Madam Secretary, Inspector General Matthew Barragan, Mr. City Attorney Carlos de la Guerra, and members of the public. Today is Tuesday, September 23rd, 2025. It is 9:30 a.m. This is a regular meeting of the Los Angeles Board of Police Commissioners. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Good morning. Please let the record reflect Commissioners Suthers, Sanchez, Gordon, and Garcia are present, and we have a quorum, Madam President.
Thank you. We welcome everyone attending this meeting. All public comment will be heard during item 2 on the agenda. We will dedicate a total of 45 minutes to public comment. Members of the public will have 1 minute per agenda item for a maximum of 2 minutes total. At the request of the speaker will be given 1 additional minute for general public comment for a maximum of 3 minutes total. Members of the public, if you choose to participate in the public comment portion of the agenda, you can. You can participate in this meeting in a number of ways outlined on the agenda. Members of the public who participate in public comment are reminded that they can speak to any item on the agenda or a matter within the jurisdiction of the Board of Police Commissioners. Public comment is your opportunity to address the board. So, you are free to express your opinion on matters before the board and to generally express when you disagree with other opinions expressed. However, during your comments to other individuals who have spoken or attacking others who have expressed their opinions shall be deemed off topic, and your public comment period will be concluded. Message for those attending the meeting in person. These meetings are regular meetings between the board, the department, and key stakeholders. Meetings of the Board of Police Commissioners are open to the public. The state's Ralph M. Brown Act affords the public the opportunity to be present at the meetings, hear the presentations and dialogue in real time, and provide feedback via public comment period. During these meetings, there is a need for the board to carry out the public business expeditiously without delays or disruptions. Members of the audience shall not engage in any conduct which causes an actual disruption of the meeting. Those attending in person are reminded that disruptive behavior will be cause for removal. If you disrupt this meeting, you will be provided with only 1 warning to cease disruptive behavior. If you fail to cease such behavior, you will be removed from the meeting. All attendees must be seated. Failure to follow this rule will result in a warning and/or removal from the meeting. With that, we will move to item 2, to the report of the Chief of Police. Chief McDonald.
Good morning, President Sanchez Gordon, Vice President Suthers, Commissioners, Inspector General Barragan, City Attorney De La Guerra, and Mr. Sibley. Today I'll be covering key events from the past week, share our latest crime trends, and provide an update on our staffing levels. On September 21st, 2025, at about 12:30 in the morning, Hollenbeck Division uniformed officers responded to a radio call at 340 North Myers Street near the railroad tracks. The radio call reported a man was armed with an assault rifle and shooting at unknown individuals. Upon arrival, the officers began to search the area and observed the suspect armed with a rifle, and an officer-involved shooting occurred. The suspect fled the scene. Metropolitan Division Special Weapons and Tactics responded and conducted an extensive search for the suspect with negative results. Rifle ammunition and casings were recovered and booked as evidence. One officer sustained minor abrasions to his hand and knee when he fell to the ground. No other officers or community members were injured as a result of this incident. Force Investigation Division investigators responded to the scene and are investigating the incident. Overall, year-to-date, we've had 34 officer-involved shootings compared to 21 at this time last year. On September 19th, at approximately 7:20 in the evening, a Northeast Patrol unit was responding Code 3 to a perimeter request involving a Code 6 child suspect, an individual who's wanted for a felony. While traveling northbound on Figueroa Street, the unit maneuvered around traffic and entered the center median. At that time, a pedestrian on a skateboard was traveling southbound in the same median area. The two parties collided. Immediately following the crash, the officers requested additional units and began rendering aid to the pedestrian. Los Angeles Fire Department responded, but despite their efforts, the pedestrian was pronounced deceased at the scene. The department's multidisciplinary collision investigation team responded and has assumed responsibility for the investigation. On Saturday, September 20th, I had the privilege of joining community at Nickerson Gardens for the unveiling of the new Dodgers Dream Field. It was a great event and a chance to meet many of the families who live there. The new baseball field is a great addition to the complex, which already has a Rams football field and the Kobe Bryant Gymnasium. These spaces give kids and families safe places to come together, stay active, and take pride in their neighborhood. The excitement from the community was clear, and the field will be a place where kids can play, families can gather, and great memories will be made for years to come. For the 4-week period ending September 20th, overall Part 1 crime is down 7.3% compared to the prior 4-week period, with property crimes driving the decrease at nearly 9.6%, while persons crimes are essentially flat. Year-to-date, homicides are down 22.1%, and victims shot are down almost 6% citywide compared to last year. Aggravated assaults are up just over 1%, or 13 more crimes than the previous 4-week period. Robberies rose slightly, up 1.3%, or 7 more crimes. Strong-arm robberies account for more than half of the robberies citywide, while robberies with firearms declined nearly 9%. Burglary is down 7% overall, with decreases in both residential and non-residential burglary, and motor vehicle theft is down 3%. Our personnel strength, sworn personnel as of September 22nd, is 8,697. Civilian professional staff is currently at 2,563, and we have 343 reserve officers. That concludes my report to the commission this morning, Madam President.
Thank you, Chief.
Sure.
Hear questions from commissioners. Yes, excuse me. Thank you, Chief. Let's hear questions from Dr. Errol Southers, please.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Chief. The only questions I have, again, thank you for bringing up the status of the OISs this year versus last year. I'm going to save the questions I have for that for agenda item 4C, which is the department's report today on the use of deadly force and following deadly force incidents.
Thank you.
So I have no further questions.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Commissioner Fabian? Garcia?
Thank you for the report, and yes, I'll wait as well for the agenda.
Chief, I do have a question, or maybe just a statement. As you know, the department has been mentioned in several media reports this last week, from the county votes to shield the automatic license plate readers, from ICE to the governor's signed bill to require ICE agents to unmask during the racial profiling of the roving patrols, to fears over the Predator drones during the LA protest. The report that I think I want to bring up more than anything is the decreased calls for help to LAPD. The month of June, the month that the raids began, showed a major decrease, and I think that from then we have shown an increase of responses to service calls. I hope that that continues to increase, especially those calls that are family related, those calls that involve domestic disputes. So I think the public trust is key to our city, especially to those persons who are being racially profiled. So the commission and the department will continue to work jointly to continue to meet our goal of trust, of service, and protection. You have any, and to follow that, and in hand with that, Chief, I would like to perhaps get some more information on a monthly basis as to the number of calls. I know they're increasing, but if we could just find out what the panorama is out in the community with service calls and the response by our department.
Thank you, Madam President. Just a couple of comments on that. We saw the article as well, looked into it. During that 2-week period in question, there were about 125,000 emergency calls for service came into the 911 center. And as you can imagine, that's a massive call volume. What we've seen over time is a general decrease in the amount of calls being dispatched because we are using alternatives now. The unarmed response, some of the mental health practitioners are able to take calls that would have required a police response before. So we have seen about a 5% decrease overall in calls for service due to that, which is a great help to us. It allows us to better focus on issues where we're going to be more effective. During that same period, we were on a tactical alert citywide. When we're on full TAC alert, we don't dispatch other than calls of significant importance, a crime of violence in progress, somebody who needs help, domestic violence, those type of issues, they get a response. The calls that are more routine, if you will, we're not able to respond at that time, but we do log them, record them, and file them. And if they're upgraded due to circumstances changing, then we reassess and respond where we can. So I look at much of the call load that went down during that period, or the dispatch calls. As I mentioned, the unarmed response, the Circle program, the D.D. Hirsch program for mental health issues, again, very helpful to us, but part of the call load is taken off. The data shows that some calls were temporarily closed due to the TAC alert, but the majority of emergencies still receive a prompt police response. But the year-over-year perspective, we saw a 5% decrease in calls compared to last year, and that's consistent with the long-term trend of slowly declining call volume and not something just tied to June. We have seen, since that 2-week period when we went off of the tactical alert status, we've seen a return to normal, for the most part, of calls dispatched and calls for service coming into the 911 center. So I feel like as much as we can, we get out, try and talk to all groups around the city about the importance of using LAPD as a resource for them in their times of need, that there is no fear to be worried about as far as civil immigration enforcement as a result of a call for help to 911. And we have a Spanish-speaking Citizens Police Academy in progress as well, and we will continue to do that. So we're speaking with Spanish-speaking media and other outlets across the board, various communities throughout the city, to be able to, educate the public as to what our role is and what it isn't.
Thank you, Chief, for that report.
You, ma'am?
Okay, any further questions from any of the commissioners? No? We will move on to public comment period. Madam Secretary?
The first speaker is John Avalos.
Good morning, everybody. There's been so many canceled meetings and times when the chief was not even here that I just have so many questions and concerns that I just cannot get to the bottom of. And it all began with the No Kings March. The No Kings, that was about a month ago, the No Kings. And when I started coming to the meetings, I wanted to know why the police were telling protesters that the 4118 anti-homeless sweeping law was the reason why they couldn't be over there protesting. Are they still doing that? I think so. And I think that Council Member Park is using that now to really clean up her area over there and to continue to violently move the homeless people around to other areas. I really don't think the homeless issue is being solved. The mayor is trying to say she's little by little solving it, but I wish her well. But man, I cannot find a place that I can afford to rent, much less the homeless people. And we're preparing for the Olympics, and I guess you're going to use 4118 to really clean up Wilshire Boulevard. When those people come from all over the world, they're going to see all these homeless people camping out. Isn't that amazing? I think that the Mayor Garcetti, the former Mayor Garcetti, he's the one that went to the AOC committee, the Olympic committee, to tell them how wonderful things are over here and we should have the Olympics in LA, right? But I think he forgot to tell them that at that time, wow. And even now, I guess, this police department, to use other people's phrases, and I love it, is the most murderous department in the world. I think the Mayor Garcetti forgot to tell the Olympic Committee that, don't you think? And at that time, we were here too attending, and I remember that one, the attorney over there, what's his name? He's been here a long time, and we've been, wow, dealing with no answers from the children and the youth who were being murdered by the police at that time. We were getting no answers. We were here all the time. So now, man, the note back to the No Kings March. I still want to know why they were shooting at us with bazookas. The sheriffs, your sheriffs over there at the Hall of Injustice, they were shooting with bazookas at us. Why? I still need to know. Did you ever get that report, Senora Gordon? I don't know if you ever got it.
Next, we have Jill over Zoom.
Hi, I just need to continue what I spoke about at my last time. I think it was last week. I think you called on me as well. I'm very concerned that you're not doing anything about the child trafficking cult of Scientology. We have cults that are being busted all over the country, and there is obvious abuse that's going on. And there was a book written by Jamie Mustard called Child X. And I think that you guys are going to get a copy of that so you could read all about the abuse of little babies that was going on under your noses in Los Angeles. These babies were born into the cult from Sea Org parents. And then the babies were put in little baby boxes, like a factory. Like, you can look at it like those babies in China, the little girls lined up with no care, no love, no nothing, just no kind of interaction. And this happened. And you also had people, at the blue buildings putting help signs in the window and not having any kinds of investigations because you took the word for it from the people that you've been heavily influenced by, that you did not even go into be even under what I would consider exigent circumstances. I would hope that you're doing an internal investigation of that incident and reviewing it thoroughly, because you really totally have a dereliction of your duties as police officers, as a whole department, as a whole. Like, don't you guys think about what's happening with that person that had the help sign? And there is actual documented video of the sign in the window. They don't know that trafficking sign. If they don't even have any exposure to that hand signal that is very well known that you can Google. So, I think that you as a department should distribute those hand trafficking signs to the cult of Scientology, so people can actually maybe communicate with you, and that we can see things in windows if people are doing that hand signal. It's very important that you get educated on what's been going on under your nose. It's very upsetting that nothing has been done, that these other places and abusive cults have been brought to justice or are in the process of being brought to justice, and that we have to stop the slave labor in the city of Los Angeles. Bye.
The next speaker, Andrew Grabner.
No commission president's comments this week. You finally gotten off your soapbox, Teresa. So the chief's report should be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes at every meeting. If it exceeds 3 minutes, we shall match the amount of time the chief takes. Regardless of how long the chief takes to give his report, everyone should be able to speak both in person and on the phone. So once again, the chief is trying to misrepresent and lie about what the LAPD's role is in immigration enforcement. So he keeps claiming that the LAPD does not assist in civil immigration enforcement. Yet, when ICE shows up, guess who shows up to protect ICE? LAPD. Guess who sends all this data to ICE? LAPD. But he keeps lying and claiming that the LAPD is not assisting in immigration enforcement, even though they are. So how long are you going to put up with this crap, with these lies? When are you going to hold them accountable for repeatedly lying, including to the media and to the country, about what LAPD is doing? Because he's repeatedly lying, and you know he's lying, but you don't hold him accountable. I know, because this commission does absolutely nothing to hold the LAPD accountable. Why am I expecting anything here? So we have the consent agenda. So we have a $1,000 wellness day for these support services. Nothing buys wellness like $1,000. We have a police dog for the Metro Division. So where's the dog coming from? I'd like to know, because you're concealing that information. Do I need to file a CPRA to get this information? I know you're going to claim you can't get it for some reason after 9 months of me trying to get anything. But where's the dog coming from? Is it the kennel named after Hitler's bunker? Because that's usually where you get the dogs from. So that really needs to be public information. No on the dog either way. So we have a police horse for Metro Division as well. Are they going to use this to try to trample protesters, attack people on horseback? Because they were doing this last June, so are they going to be doing it again? Because that seems to be what they use these horses for. Okay, we have another expensive holiday party. No. We have the use of force review. LAPD is shooting and killing more people. You have absolutely nothing to say about that. So, just a few general comment items. Why is Errol here? His term expired at the end of June. He still has not been reconfirmed by City Council. That vote's on Friday. It hasn't already happened, so he shouldn't be here. Also, you keep saying that people need to contact the board secretary if they need a translator, but it doesn't give that contact information on the agenda.
Next over Zoom, we have Charles Brown.
All items, please.
3 minutes.
Last week, I brought to light how LAPD leadership, including you, Chief McDonald, chooses to ignore reprehensible and misogynistic treatment of women in this department. I'll give you some examples. One woman was in a dating relationship with Hurtado, and she was moved from Rampart and placed on loan as a detective at Hollenbeck. And from what I hear, Hollenbeck Command protested this move. This made it nearly impossible for other candidates, especially women, to compete fairly for that position. Now, I've learned, on a separate note, that a female captain in a relationship with Hurtado had to be transferred from Newton to Southwest in the middle of the night, displacing the sitting captain. Why? Because it seems Hurtado cannot control his predatory behavior. That relationship began when she was one of his lieutenants at Professional Standards Bureau. Think about that. It was not even reported until they were caught. This is abuse, misogyny, and it's being ignored by leadership. Let me state this clearly. This will not continue while the public pays hard-earned tax dollars in lawsuits, while senior staff, many who don't even live in the city, look away. I'm formally calling for a complaint on this ongoing pattern of abuse that has been tolerated by senior staff, including Chief McDonald, and Hurtado's inappropriate, unreported relationships. And Hurtado, this department already has a Chief Graham, but you're trying to be Chief Instagram, because I hear that all you do is DM women, married or not. How many families are you willing to destroy? Maybe Chief 30 by 30 fits you better, since you seem to want to date 30% of the women in the department by 2030. To the two female commanders with more experience who are forced to report to this man, I offer you an apology on behalf of the people because LAPD senior staff has failed you. Ignored misconduct has consequences. The price of fairness denied is corruption rewarded. And the LAPD is paying that price every single day. This department needs help. May God bless the city of Los Angeles. May God bless the LAPD. I yield the rest of my time.
The next speaker, please, is Grace.
You call this oversight, but every week it's the same theater. Reports, trainings, donations, all camouflage for a system built on violence. You say use of force, but what you really mean is shootings, tasers, batons, moments you can count and sanitize. You reduce violence to a tally, but force isn't just when a trigger is pulled or a baton comes down. Force is every second cops are in our neighborhoods. It's their constant intimidation, the threat of arrest, the fear of being stopped, caged, or killed for existing. That daily terror doesn't appear in your graphs, but it defines our community's lives. And even the pieces you do admit are damning. LAPD fired less lethal rounds more than 200 times in 2024. 200 times you shot projectiles designed to fracture skulls, blind people, and send them to the hospital, and then dared to call it less lethal. Less lethal is still lethal. And you didn't even bother to record when 2 people were tased in Skid Row by LAPD. If that's what slips through a public report, what else are you covering up? Where other people have been brutalized, disappeared, or killed without a single line in your paperwork. And now you want to point to training. You hide behind the language of training and oversight like it's a solution when we know it's a cover. Officer-involved shootings in 2025 are already up 47% from the same time last year. What does that tell us? It tells us that training hasn't stopped the bloodshed, it has refined it. Cops are trained to see Black and brown life as disposable, poor communities as zones of crime, and every counter as an opportunity for force. Training doesn't undo that, it institutionalizes it. Training gives you a buzzword to sell while violence escalates. And while you pat yourselves on the back for oversight, Jerry Estrada is dead. He was a son, a brother, an uncle, skateboarding home from work in Highland Park on Friday night when LAPD sped through a median and killed him. LAPD claimed their speed wasn't excessive, but any speed that kills a man on his way home is excessive. And what makes it worse, they weren't even responding to an urgent crisis. They were going to assist other cops who are already on scene. So this wasn't an exception. This is routine. This was standardized recklessness. LAPD murders people with their cars just as they murder with their guns. And now drones, another $20,000, another shiny piece of technology to expand the occupation. You frame it as neutral, as logistics, as awareness, but drones are not neutral. They are surveillance weapons. They are tools of war. And we know exactly how this story plays out. Every piece of equipment LAPD has ever rolled out has been justified as emergency response, and every single one has ever been used and deployed against Black, brown, poor, and unhoused communities. We've seen it with ALPRs, predictive policing, even so-called disaster command posts. The excuse is always safety, the reality is always surveillance and suppression. This board is not oversight, it is a rubber stamp for occupation. Week after week, you approve the weapons, the training, the drones, the propaganda, and the truth remains. No report, no training, no donation, no drone will make policing safe. Policing is violence, it has always been, and it'll always be. And every time you greenlight another toy, another training, another mission creep program, you're not building safety, you're deepening the war on our communities.
The next speaker is Kuyan.
Teresa, welcome to your presidency. It's great that you began with an inability to turn your mic on, and then spitting a few cheeky lies in that mic after cutting us all off again from speaking. You brought up once more how you think LAPD doesn't collaborate with ICE. I'm sorry, do you need me to send you footage or something? Because you're supposed to be an oversight body, so maybe you do oversight. In fact, you all talk about how you love to watch footage so much, watch video, but it seems real footage of LAPD at countless ICE raids hasn't stuck. It's sad because I think you know the truth, embarrassing really if we're being honest, that you cosplay empathy and compassion, but we see you for what you are, a model minority minority who does the bidding for the white supremacist state. I bet your parents and your grandparents and your aunts and your uncles and your deceased ancestors are rolling in their motherfucking graves knowing you just took the presidential seat for the body that streamlines, enables, and makes easy the kidnappings of our brothers and sisters. There are words for you for people who are traitors to our own people under colonial regime. You're a native informant, an opportunistic assimilationist who furthers the goals of the oppressive body. A traitor and a racist, you're disgusting. And you have no right to feign concern for immigrants, children of immigrants, or our families. We take care of ourselves, and that includes shielding ourselves from you and ICE. Not only that, but you have a new fucking horse coming through named Amigo. The irony that LAPD horses were just used a few months ago to trample people in June while we were fighting you. And that doesn't escape me. ICE, the group you keep fighting for and fighting with, profiles people just for speaking Spanish and then abducts them. And now you have a horse named Amigo to trample anti-ICE protesters? Teresa, do you not realize that LAPD was shooting at people in the streets? Not ICE, not the Federal Guard, LAPD. The little piggies in this room, and you just took time to walk around at 9:27 a.m. to shake all of their hands. One thing I do find quite a bit sick is that there's a chance you really just don't understand the violence you unleash on the people of Los Angeles. That's clear because 2 weeks ago, there's a little piggy sitting right in front of me with a gun in his belt with live ammunition. But his Google search history included, what is a 37 millimeter? What is a 40 millimeter? You released a report in a previous week on categorical and uncategorical use of force, but your pig quite literally didn't even know the weaponry you use, despite being armed with a literal gun. And if you'd think we don't live under a colonial regime in which you're a native informant, let's be so fucking for real. You have a whole report under AB 481 that details the copious amounts of military-grade weapons. Military-grade weapons you continue to use to wage war on the people. And doubling back to Errol, it's no surprise that you use the tactics of war in Los Angeles and abroad. Errol learned tactics of war straight from the Zionist entity and ships his methods of violence from Skid Row to occupied Palestine. From guns to the war rooms you're building out right now via real-time crime centers in Skid Row, your cops are swarming the streets and terrorizing people. And you were also worried about Charlie Kirk shooting. How fucked? Because police shootings are up in 2025, so what a load of bullshit. Protect and serve. One person shot by you, one single person killed by you is too many. Time and again, you're so explicitly racist, outing how you value white supremacist life. Clearly, all those sensitivity trainings didn't teach you to hide your fucking racism. You sit up there as if people's lives are numbers. 31 officer-involved shootings, 31 lives, 31 brothers, 31 sisters and parents and uncles and aunts and children, and you turn people into statistics to look at on a pie chart in a PDF. Protecting people and serving people for you has always meant protecting the elite while killing black and brown communities. Go fuck yourselves.
Next speaker, Hamid Khan.
Let's go speak to the assimilationists. Oh, yes. Thank you, Kuyan and Grace. Carrying this right on. So Teresa is the new president of the commission. And of course, the first act was to be like more loyal than the king. So shut people up. Don't let people speak. Silent people. And just still 16 cards left. One meeting after the other, and you call yourself a civilian oversight, a representative, assimilationist. Absolutely. Thank you for doing that. And then Teresa started this meeting this morning by kind of rah-rahing what the Board of Supervisors has done about information sharing, which when you go through the details, which is such bullshit, because the sheriffs are the fiduciary for JERIC, for the Fusion Center. Information sharing is vast, whether it's through the National Data Exchange that ICE has and sheriffs and LASD is absolutely highlighted and noted in that index, or the NLETs as well. But let me just ask you, Teresa, do you know anything about the Axon Fleet in-car recording platform system on LAPD patrol cars? Do you know anything about Motorola's ALPR fixed cameras? Do you know anything about Motorola scanners and Vigilant Solution mobile companion ALPR smartphone application? Do you know anything about that? Do you know anything about Peregrine technology? Do you know anything about flock safety? That's been in the news a lot. Anything at all. Do you know anything about Fusus? Do you know anything about Palantir? You are sitting over here rubber stamping and approving millions of dollars, and these are all the technologies that are constantly in motion. Completely rejected the letter we sent them in details back in March about how license plate reader information sharing is happening. Did you bother to look at the letter where we identified that even Captain Espinoza in his presentation in February spoke that, oh, we only have contracts with 5 police departments of information sharing. Okay, well, that's even like, which is all bullshit, So when you start looking at those agencies, Huntington Park Police Department, La Mesa Police Department, Livermore Police Department, San Luis Obispo Police Department, and West Covina Police Department, which in turn West Covina ended up sharing all that information through a Colorado Fusion Center, through Customs and Border Patrol National Targeting Center, through the U.S. Marshal Service, and New Mexico Department of Homeland Security. Can you guys fucking do a little bit of your own research and investigation when you claim on cocktail parties that you serve the people, that you're there protecting the rights of the Angelinos, that you're there, that you're the oversight body, that I used to be a judge. I'm a founder of the Mexican American Bar Association. I mean, at what point does an assimilationist just has any shame and come back and say that I need to have some self-reflection? I need to step back and see how I'm offering my own people on a platter to these goons and these thugs and who are getting abducted and kidnapped. Man. Shame on you.
Jason Reedy, please.
Really? Gonna have a press conference and file the show.
All right, so the community has repeatedly called out this department's reckless driving. On Saturday, your pigs ran over and killed Jerry Estrada in Highland Park. His death won't show up in the numbers you report. It won't change a thing in this department. It's another instance of the harm you dole out in our communities. Rosa Casera's son is now dead because your pigs chose to play God and put people's lives at risk. Now, to speed through that street while a carnival was happening just steps away at Sycamore Grove Park says everything. Children traumatized for life, Jerry stolen from his family and friends, and Jim McDonald goes around lying to Angelillo saying shit like, we do everything in our power to keep every community in Los Angeles safe. But the LAPD's track record tells a very different story. And then the callousness, right? Telling the media that the pigs involved were very shaken up. What the actual fuck? LAPD claims they weren't speeding, but multiple witnesses say otherwise. So why did Jerry have to die? So your pigs could race to a so-called perimeter for a parolee at large. Now, I'm sure every person attending this meeting can tell you a story about the rash and careless driving by pigs of this department. The city, last week, just paid out $18 million to two elders who were victims of pig Jason Stevenson's reckless disregard for life behind the wheel. In Stevenson's deposition, he couldn't even admit to speeding or even that he caused the crash. Last year, for those that don't remember, Joe Ward Wallace tried to report a pig for driving recklessly through his neighborhood, nearly causing an accident. In response, your pigs beat him, falsely charged him with a felony, and threw him into solitary confinement for 5 days. This shit is truly a game to you. Now, I also want to talk about the LAPD and the framing of Roger John Nielsen's murder as an in-custody death. He was shot and killed with a 40 millimeter, the same less lethals that the world has witnessed you deploy against protesters, journalists, and bystanders. Again, this shooting doesn't count towards your numbers, and even without it, the LAPD still holds the distinction as the most murderous police department in the nation. Now, 3A, this alcohol policing partnership grant. You can't even keep your own pigs in check when it comes to alcohol. For the record, maybe one of you commissioners can ask, how many of your sworn officers have been arrested for DUIs? How many, and even better, how many of them have been arrested for DUIs while on the clock? 3E, another omission when it comes to your newest canine. Ever since it became a story, y'all failed to include the fact that the LA Police Foundation sources their donated dogs from a company named after Adelhorst, which shares its name with Hitler's bunker. This, while the LAPD says it stands united with Jewish communities against anti-Semitism. And finally, 3J. You will all accept the donation of this horse, and once again, someone should explain why horses are necessary in this state of quote-unquote state of the art department. We've seen you deploy these horses at protests, and we see how you use them for counterinsurgency. Now, where is this horse coming from? The LA Mounted Police Foundation, which the LAPD claims is some random entity that has not attempted to influence the department in the past year, despite it being run by LAPD pig Eric Rogers. I see Eric retired last month, and the LAPD dedicated your quote-unquote limited resources to Rogers' retirement party by the way of a helicopter flyover and a visit from uniformed pigs and their horses. Now, front and center at Eric's party was a cardboard life-size cutout of Trump, LAPD's favorite president since Reagan. Teresa, I would encourage you to take all the public comment today, or you'll face the consequences for that very, very soon.
William Good, please.
So I want to start off by saying that it's really disrespectful that you limit public comment to 45 minutes. People take off from work to be here. And you guys are constantly, even though you've had maybe 3 or 4 meetings straight, usually cancel every other week, all right? It's disrespectful to limit our voices. If you do that, we will show up at your house and we will do it there. Now, you guys are talking about your recruiting problem. I listened to it today. You guys are down about 100 cops over the last year. You guys have tried all types of strategies to boost recruitment, giving $15,000 signing bonuses. You have the foundation paying their rent, all types of shit, and you're still failing at recruiting. Good, good. I'm gonna tell you right now, you guys are gonna continue having that problem. First off, if your cops join the LAPD, let them know what they have coming to them. They'll have a profile coming to them from watchthewatchers.net where they'll list all their information and now includes disciplinary action. That's the information you want out there about yourself being a cop, that's what you're gonna get. But, you know, you have these struggles. I went to the CPAB meeting a couple months ago. The captain there was telling me, oh, it's the media's fault. It's the media's fault that we're having problems recruiting. It's not the media's fault. It's your own fucking fault. The media is just playing videos of you guys acting like fucking savages. So don't blame anybody but yourself. I'll say it again. 52% of the population are women, and 18% of the LAPD are women. You got a woman problem. You heard that caller call in talking about all types of harassments and affairs that are going on in your department. That's going unchecked. That's going unchecked. It's going unchecked by this guy. Let me tell you about this guy right here, this doddering fool. All right? This guy, you might think he runs the LAPD. He doesn't. He has abdicated his duties to Dominic Choi, and everybody in this room knows it who's a cop. This guy right here, I don't know if he's sundowning, I don't know what it is, but you don't run anything. What a waste of a pick for a chief you have been. Now, I know there's also an issue with the Kingdom Parade, where a guy who's been running it for 40 years had it taken away from him to give it to Karen Bass's good buddy. That's fucking disgusting. You guys need to correct that and fix that. Now, he talked about guys driving drunk, cops driving drunk. You guys familiar with Michael Ensley? Michael Ensley got caught. He got in an accident driving twice the legal limit of alcohol, put 2 people in the hospital, charged with like 10 felonies under Gascon. The new guy comes in and drops it all and gives him 1 misdemeanor, some probation, and he's back on the fucking force. And he's back on the force. Address your alcohol problems. I don't know.
Audit LA, please.
Hey, good morning. I also want to continue about the Kingdom Day Parade and Dr. Dove. I was able to go to both appeals. And the problem I have as I looked into it is that the person who, Dr. Dove, he put it in his thing 6 months. They said it was before 6 months. So he had to put it in again, and he did. And then he found out that somebody else, Mr. Bakewell, Mayor Bass's friend, also put it in, and that it was awarded to Mr. Bakewell, even though they were promised they would get a full investigation with a report and everything as to who should win. But basically it was given to Mr. Bakewell just because he got it in a day earlier, which is not in the municipal code that it's anything time related. That first come, first serve is not written in there. And so I was looking into it more, and it looks like Mr. Bakewell, is so important. Like he was named in the tapes that, where Miss Nuri had to step down from, he was named as a power broker, not anything insulting, but that he's a power broker. And he was also asked to be part of the group that helped pick the new chief. So right there, that's a bias, okay, or implied bias or perceived bias for any of us. Because if he had anything to do with picking the chief, then how is LAPD then being the deciding factor in who gets whether he gets his permit or not? And I spoke at both appeal hearings. And Mr. Django, I asked them they need to renounce, I can't think of the word right now, I'm sorry, but they should not have continued. There is no reason for LAPD. You have to put it outside, and I'm asking the OIG to please look into this, because LAPD should not be deciding if this man who basically stole a permit, you know, from someone who's had it for 40 years because he got in a day early. That's not fair. He helped pick, he was invited to help pick the chief because he's very good friends with the mayor. That does not give us confidence. It needs to be remanded. That decision needs to be remanded. Everything needs to be redone, and it needs to go into an agency or someone that can decide it fairly. Or just give it to Dr. Dove, who's had it for 40 years and who deserves, and he said it was his last one. So why would you take it from his last one and give it to a guy because he got there a day early? Now I want to get on to, you know, why I'm always here for Scientology. Again, asking Chief, please get them off of your CPABs. I don't know, I can't say it enough, that they pay their people $47 a week, okay, for over 110 hours of work a week. And when Janet Whelan is at your CPABs, she's working and she's making $47 a week. That is inhumane. They do it because they're committed, but as decent human beings here, we should not allow this. Thank you.
The next speaker is Bike Guy.
Oh, he needs me to speak for because I'm the one with the...
Bike Guy, is he here?
Grace is the one who helped push that through.
She approved it.
Good afternoon, Commission. I'd like her to speak for me.
He was here a couple of weeks ago because he you know, about an incident that happened to him. He was victimized.
Fortunately, he has to be the speaker.
He doesn't have the information. So I need to talk to somebody. That's fine. But I need to give an update because you guys did help him.
Did comment online.
Huh? I'm his caregiver. I'm his power of attorney as well. So I have power of attorney. Okay. But it says, all right, then give us somebody to talk to, please, because we need to let you know what's happening. He doesn't understand the processes because I'm the one who's helping him with each step that you gave us.
I got assigned to the old detective who didn't help me a bit, and they put me to the same guy, and I'm still nowhere.
So we need,
Okay, the next speaker, please.
This officer approaching you will help you, sir. Thank you.
The next speaker is Laura.
Thank you.
Hi. So I see more and more every day, every meeting, every situation, every person, every schedule I go to, the internal structure of the LAPD and the board is very similar to Scientology. It's super hard to face a board when the leader of the board, for example, the permit commission the other day, when we were all fighting to get the MLK parade permit back for them, for Dr. Dove, the board members were talking and laughing in between. The speakers cut off the public commenters. You were there. It was so manipulative. Why have a board when everybody's already being swayed to say a certain thing or approve a thing? It's the same thing here. That's what happens in Scientology. That's how they've covered up multiple deaths in Los Angeles over the last 40 years. Why are there still people like my father, $47 a week, not a day, $47 a week. And then they go and put that money in the canteen and their tampons and their underwears and their personal things. So that money goes right back into Scientology. This is slave labor. And here you are, a board's just going, oh, we're so sorry after 40 years. Guess who helped get that fucking permit, the parade? Guess who was all a part of that? Janet Whelan. Guess who when the parade people told them they no longer maybe didn't want to associate with Scientology, guess what happened? Now their fucking parade is being told that they're no more because of a permit? That's so biased. That's so fucked up. How is anything gonna get done? Southers, you were not here last time we had a meeting. If you can pay attention, this is directly to you. This book is written by Jamie Mustard. He specifically has a letter inside of it directed to you. And this is about a man born and raised, a black man, if that makes it easier for you, born and raised in the cult of Scientology in Los Angeles as a baby. And not only did this happen to him, but to every other child and adults Janet Whelan, that are currently still in the brainwash deformation of Scientology. So either you wake up, somebody here on the board, wake up and start saying, all right, that's it. We're gonna fucking start flipping this fucking gang organization. Your similarities are very similar. Scientology is a gang hiding behind a religious organization. You guys are doing the same. This is evidence, Southers. This is not a gift, but you please, I demand you to read it. You will think differently.
Jonathan Foster, please.
Hello, Jonathan Foster. I try to support the police. You know, sometimes I get up here, I can't remember everything. Last week, I was talking about the OIS, and they said that on the report that the OIS shootings was down at 0.0029%, and it's always very low. And since it's so low, right, something needs to change here. And even if you were prosecuting, right, it's a small number. And this is why it's important to prosecute the police officers that have committed abuse of the handbook, because there's so few of them. That's the reason to prosecute every officer that offends the handbook, is because there's so few of them, right? But you don't even prosecute one, it sounds like. Unless it's like, you know, videoed on ABC or something. It's absolutely incredible. Of course, in supporting, let's see, there were 3 officers, they were shot in Pennsylvania, they're dead. They didn't have head-to-toe body armor on because Eileen Decker is guilty. And so aren't all of you, because nobody's protecting these police officers. They keep going out and getting shot dead. Why? And because they're not protected, they have to shoot citizens. Okay, so if we protected the police department, then they wouldn't be shooting citizens. This is what we're trying to achieve. And I am the only one in the United States of America that has the answers. It's not you people. Certainly not you, Earl. Don't look at me. Shut up. Keep looking down. It cost $23 million for the LAPD to support ICE. Send the bill to the White House. They owe you money. They owe you $23 million. That jerk I ran against owes you $23 million. I know a lot of illegal aliens. I've been wronged by some illegal aliens. You know, I've never, ever called anybody about an illegal alien. Never. You think you're real bad, right? There's a lady, her name is Mrs. Shaw. When her son was killed by Pedro Espinosa, the shit you support, that they can just come on up in here, she would kick your ass. She's a real woman. You're a girl. She got out of boot camp. She will kick your ass and the loser's ass too. You people suck. Why didn't Russia and you join the United States military? Because you're a fucking girl. That's why. You're just a girl.
The next speaker, General Dogan.
General Dogon, shut it down organizer with LAK. I had a 2-part statement I'd like to make. First is to the commissioners. We was here 2 weeks ago when you had the use of force on the agenda. We want to make public comment, but you stepped out and you walked out on us, and we thought that was very disrespectful. We are a pole organization on Skid Row. We ain't got money just to be coming down here paying for parking and hanging out with y'all for nothing. You know, so we respect it if you not walk out on us. You know what I'm saying? If anything, we're going to shut this down. This is, see what it say up there? Your integrity and your commitment is supposed to be to the community, not to this guy, right? You got 5 stars, he got 4, because you're supposed to be representing us, right? And if anybody going to be shutting it down, it's going to be our ass shutting it down. LA Can and the Shut It Down Coalition. Now I want to talk to you. chief in your raggedy ass racist department, all right, chicken shit motherfuckers, right? I came down here to protest the last one because I didn't agree with what y'all was doing with ICE, right? Claiming to be a sanctuary city and all. And then you got the mayor on TV talking about, yeah, come on down here, we gonna protest peacefully. So I came down here, right, and I brought my flag down here with me. I got it with me today, right? We call it the black and brown getting down. It's the brown flag, Mexican flag on one side, and the black nationalist flag on the other side. I came down here wearing this. I was sitting on the grass at Shitty Hall when the horses came out of nowhere, pushing everybody down Main Street, all the way to the Ronald Reagan building on 3rd Street, right? So when you got a squad coming down this way, walking north, it's one of the white Nazis just couldn't resist, huh? Just had to snatch it out my hand. I did 18 years of state prison for robbery, right? It was arrested by LAPD, right? That's the same thing I did, snatched somebody from somebody. So I went back to get my property and was shot in the back by some police. Look, there go the bullet right there. Ain't this your shit? How did it get in my back, all right? And so to make a long story short, I just got a couple of questions around this bullet right here, right? One, did you know I got shot? You got on cameras. Right, I know what you doing with that footage. You got like 9 pigs that was involved in it, right? Then on top of that, how many people got shot? How many days did they discharge? You got a record of that? You keep track of all that, right? And then I got a $1,500 ticket in the mail for running a red light, right? They said I fucked up, right? But you know what? When you fuck up, do you send people letters in the mail that know, oh, we fucked up? You know understand me? Because no, you don't. Because it's consistent with you never approving a complaint, a citizen's complaint. It goes together, right? But now I want you to know, right, that you shot me first, right? I'm not gonna file none of your damn complaints because I know you ain't gonna prove it, right? Fuck it anyway. I just want you to remember that you shot me first.
Megan?
Not a good look. Hami, when you were talking about does she know what all these different technologies are, this broad didn't even know what a critical incident video was as of February or March. Do you guys remember that? I don't remember what shooting it was because there's so many, but she's thanking the chief for putting out an educational video to inform the public. Okay, you've got to be fucking kidding me. Teresa, how did you get this job? Were you the only one willing to be president? How did the newest person on the commission get the seat? Why didn't Rasha want to be president? She loves LAPD. She's very proud to be a part of the deadliest police department in the country. You're all very proud to be actively assisting You're very proud to be actively assisting the fascist forces fucking imprisoning people in this city. What is wrong with you? Seriously, what's wrong with you? You don't know shit. You haven't been on this commission to know anything long enough to be president. This shit is fake, Teresa. Let's talk about how much public participation has been limited in this meeting, Teresa. Okay, before the pandemic, the public had 2 minutes to speak on every single agenda item, okay? And everybody who showed up got to speak. Then y'all got your asses handed to you on national television. People showed up for 9 hours to give public comment after the George Floyd uprisings in which you brutally beat protesters. So then you limit the public comment time to 45 minutes total. Then we push back on that for years. Errol Southers makes this smarmy little announcement at the beginning of his tenure being like, oh, everybody who comes in person is going to get to speak and we're going to do community meetings. Well, what the fuck happened to that? We haven't done any community meetings and now you're cutting us off at 45 minutes. Now you're only taking 2 or 3 Zoom calls. A couple of months ago, we found out that there were the parents of somebody whose son was killed waiting to talk on that Zoom. Rasha had to be like, oh, can we get them on? Can we get them on? Can we find them? How do you know that there isn't somebody today whose son was killed or daughter was killed waiting to talk on that Zoom line to talk to you about that? Fucking gross. Not that it matters because the voice of the people doesn't carry any fucking weight in this room, but I would like to formally lodge my opposition to Errol being reappointed to this commission. Errol, you're an Islamophobe, you're an authoritarian, you're a wannabe petty tyrant, and you're a protector of child molesters. You have no business being in charge of anything, let alone police accountability if such a thing wasn't a fucking oxymoron. You're literally the worst qualified candidate available. But please, all of you stay on. I really enjoy shaming you. Teresa, if you keep limiting our public comment, you're gonna fucking regret that.
Madam President, that is the allotted time for public comment. We still have 3 cards. Take them? Okay. We'll call Susan Rocha, please.
My name is Susan Rocha. I was maliciously prosecuted by Divine Savior Catholic Church in Cypress Park for a crime that never happened. I went to jury and fought Priest Albert Pragasam and his line church members. This is cruel. Cruel. The city attorney's office prosecuted me with no evidence, no witnesses who saw a goddamn thing because it never happened, but yet they prosecuted me anyway because they could get a priest on the stand to say something. That is damn sick. I went to jury. I fought him for a week with my public defender, my wonderful public defender. Jury came back not guilty. So fast that the ink wasn't even dry on the paper. That is goddamn sick. Now, I know that there's a couple of you here that are Catholic, but you should not support bad behavior, including child molestations that went on years ago. Didn't we learn that lesson? No. You've got prosecutors, bad malicious prosecutors, that prosecute because the Catholic Church wants it. That's how much power that they still have. That's really sick. I fought him and beat him. That wasn't an easy fight, even though the truth was on my side. Tell me all the lies that they put up with came out on trial. And it wouldn't have, if I would have plead deal like they wanted me to. And I said, hell no, I will not. I will go to jail before I plead deal to something I didn't do. But no, you've got prosecutors in that courtroom. They're prosecuting all day long innocent people. Not putting away the guilty ones, but putting away the innocent ones with no evidence and no witnesses just because we're the easy targets. That's not justice. Our justice system is really broken when judges allow prosecution without any evidence, without a preponderance that something happened. That's not right. And I will not stop talking about it. What this church did, and they never said sorry either. They never said, sorry, we made a mistake. Sorry, we shouldn't have done that. Hell no. You go ask Priest Albert Pragasam why he did that. And why he would support his line church members. And why he would prosecute me on the stand for the prosecution. Why would he do that? Here's a whole thing with a goddamn fucking lie. And that wasn't right, what he did. And that's not right what that church did to me. And they never apologized. And I don't expect an apology because they can't admit that they made a mistake or that they lied.
The next speaker, Eston.
But think about it. You Catholic people, you think about it. You think about it long and hard. That when there's a bad church, you better think about it. And that includes the Scientology. Yeah. That includes the Catholic Church. If they do something wrong, you need to hold them accountable. And you need to think about it long and hard.
Thank
you. That's not justice.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. That concludes public comment. The commission will now take a 10-minute break. Morning. We now move on to the consent agenda. Madam Secretary?
Okay, before us we have agenda items 3A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L. Do any commissioners wish to pull any items? Okay, seeing none. Do we have a motion on the floor to approve agenda items A through L?
A through L. Motion to approve the agenda items A through L.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, we have regular agenda items. 4A, verbal presentation alternatives to armed response. And we have Captain Chayogi.
Okay, let's see, good morning. Okay, can you give us your names, please?
Lieutenant Manuel Sanchez, Los Angeles Police Department Communications Division.
Good morning, Senior PSR 2, Robert Lopez, Communications Division.
Good morning, Board. Senior PSR 1, Ching Feng, Communications Division.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Captain Alex Chogyoji, Commanding Officer of Communications Division.
Good morning. Okay, who's going to make the presentation? Well, and welcome all of you.
Okay, good morning, President, Vice President of the Board, and other honorable members of the Police Commission. And good morning to Chief McDonald as well. I am Captain Alex Chogyoji, Commanding Officer of Communications Division. You just heard from my administrative staff joining me today, who assisted with gathering information for this PowerPoint presentation. I also want to recognize all the dedicated LAPD police service representatives, our 911 dispatchers, who are the community's first point of contact whenever anyone in Los Angeles needs help. They are the voices behind the radio that communicate with our partners in the field every day. Today, we are here to present 3 unarmed alternatives to police response programs. First is the department-initiated Call Direction to Ensure Suicide Safety, or CRESS, partnering with Didi Hirsch. Second is Mayor Bass's initiative, Crisis and Incident Response through Community-Led Engagement, also known as CIRCLE program. Lastly, from the Office of the City Administrative Officer, the Unarmed Model of Crisis Response, or UMCR. We want to take a moment to introduce you and the public to each one of these programs. Our partners from both Didi Hirsch and the CAO's office are here in attendance. Should the commissioners have any questions regarding their respective programs or the work with the department, the UMCR program manager from the CAO's Equity Performance Management and Innovations Office, Vanessa Willis, and Andre Herndon are present in the audience. So let's start with Didi Hirsch. This is a regional answering point for the 988 National Suicide and Crisis Hotline, focusing on suicide prevention and mental health crises. The program was initiated in January of 2021 in a limited hour capacity and expanded to a 24/7 availability on July 1st, 2021. Before the program, individuals suffering from mental health crises or thoughts of suicide dialed 911.
Hi, sir.
You're about to listen to a real call involving a distraught individual with suicidal thoughts and how our police service representatives handled it.
LA City 911, operator 299. Hi, sir. My name is Cameron. I don't feel like it. I feel like I feel suicidal. Have you hurt yourself today, Cameron? What was that? Have you hurt yourself today? No. I just don't feel good, and I don't know, I just don't want to, like... Do you have any weapons on you? No.
How were you thinking of hurting yourself?
Well, like, I prepped my death when I was younger, and I just don't want to. I have like a lot to want to talk about, and I don't know, I feel like I need someone to talk to, but like I don't know, I just don't feel good right now. Like I have a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress.
Okay. So you just wanted to talk to somebody, right? You don't have any weapons or anything on you. You're not about to hurt yourself right now as we're speaking.
No.
Okay. What's your phone number, Cameron?
I don't have. I'm using someone else's phone.
Okay. Give me a sec. You want to talk to a counselor?
Sure.
Okay. Let me get somebody on the line with us. Okay. Let me just introduce them to you, and then I'll let them talk to you. All right?
Okay.
Diversion. This is Barbara.
Hi, Barbara. This is Operator 299 LAPD. I have Cameron on the line with us.
Hello.
He wants to talk to somebody.
Cameron, you say?
Cameron, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have an incident number?
Incident 650.
Okay. And Cameron just needs to talk. You're not dispatching anyone, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Barbara.
Okay. Thank you. Hi, Cameron.
Hi.
So before the D.D. Hirsch program, a call such as the one you heard would likely result in officers being dispatched, and the 911 PSR would have to stay on the line, attempting to de-escalate the situation until police arrived. Dispatching officers may not always be the best option to address a mental health crisis. Now, dispatchers can divert calls to D.D. Hirsch if the situations meet the criteria listed on the slide. Based on the statistics provided by D.D. Hirsch, as of August 31st of this year, the Communications Division diverted approximately 1,087 calls to D.D. Hirsch, a 12% increase from the same time last year. The number of calls redirected back to LAPD has also decreased during the same time from 26 in 2024 to 15 in 2025. It represents a 42% decrease in calls that were redirected back to us. The most significant benefit of the program is not only that our officers do not have to respond and place themselves in scenarios where a use of force may occur, but also freeing our 911 PSRs from having to stay on the phone for long periods of time, which can be stressful due to the limited de-escalation training. D.D. Hirsch's professional counselors have demonstrated their ability to spend the necessary time engaging with individuals to de-escalate the situation. Next, the CIRCLE program. CIRCLE focuses on persons experiencing homelessness and related quality of life issues. The city expanded the number of vendors and had contractual changes effective April 1st of this year. The program began in January of 2022 in a select number of reporting districts within the Hollywood division. Currently, CIRCLE covers 9 divisions in its entirety, while 4 divisions remain with specific reporting districts. The subcontractors have now expanded and beyond Urban Alchemy to include Heluna Health, Alcott, Canopy Roots, and Sycamores. Calls for CIRCLE are determined by specific criteria, specifically involving persons experiencing homelessness. Let's listen to a call.
Los Angeles Police Department Operator 223.
Hi.
Hello.
Well, sorry, I had you on speaker there. So I'm in Venice, and for the past couple of hours, there's been some unfortunate unhoused man. He's been screaming and yelling, and then crying, and then kind of screaming gibberish. And I don't know if he's been puking or peeing in the planter across the street, but he seems like he needs a lot of help. And I really don't want to, get myself involved because it could be a dangerous situation. But I've noticed him around for a couple. Oh, sure. Venice, California.
Is he directly in front of that address?
He's right across the street. So there's like this white fence, and like there's some planters, and he's been kind of hanging out over there.
White fence and planters. Is he white, black, Hispanic, or Asian?
I think he's a white man. He's got like brown hair, a beard. He's wearing like maybe a blue flannel type shirt.
Blue flannel shirt. Okay. Was he waving around any weapons, anything like that?
I couldn't see any weapons, but I mean, he was screaming, and
Sure.
yeah, he
Did
seemed
he
like he was
hurt
in pain. I didn't see him hurt anyone.
Okay. He looks like he might be in some pain, or he looks like he might just need some relocation services, something like that.
Yes. I mean, I feel bad for him. It looks like he could use some help. I don't know, like, what type of services or if any he'd be willing to accept. But
Okay.
I mean,
Well, the city of LA
just seems in bad shape.
The city of LA contracts with Urban Alchemy. They're a homeless outreach provider. So what we'll do is create a call for service for them to come out and offer him services to relocate him, find out if he needs medical attention or anything like that. If for some reason he turns out to be violent or anything like that, that's when they'll get the police involved. But first that's the first line of interaction with him. So we'll go ahead and do that. Would you like to leave your name or phone number?
Sure. Also, I think he might. I don't know if he was like high or something. It looked like he might have been like tripping or or
I'll
something
let
like
him know
that.
that
So,
as well.
okay. Yeah, Sham 0409.
All right, sir. We'll get somebody out there, okay? Thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Of course, sir. Bye.
All right. Bye.
Hello, LAPD. Thank you for contacting the Circle Project operated by Urban Alchemy. All calls are recorded for quality assurance. Please hold, and the next available operator will be with you in the order we received your call. If you do not wish to hold, you can press 1 at any time to leave a message.
Urban Alchemy, Operator 125.
Hi, Operator 125. This is Operator 223 with LAPD.
Hey, 223, how are you today?
Doing well. How are you, sir?
Doing good. What's the RD that we're working with today?
1444.
Okay, in the Pacific area?
Correct.
All right, do you have an incident number?
Yes, 3103.
Okay, and the location? Is it residential or commercial?
Residential, and the PR said that it was directly across the street next to a white fence and planter.
Okay, and what's do you have a PR name and number?
Yes. His first name.
All right, and what's going on with this location?
He was reporting a subject, a male white with brown hair and beard, blue flannel shirt, who has been at that location for several hours. He's yelling, crying, talking to himself, appears possibly to be under the influence or impaired. He did not witness anything that appeared violent, and he did not observe any weapons.
Okay. All right, we're going to try to have a team out there as soon as possible. I have ticket number 118529. Once again, I'm Operator 125, and hopefully we can resolve this issue.
Thank you so much, sir, and have a wonderful day.
You too.
Thank you. Okay, bye.
So as you can see, these calls are much more time-consuming, as the PSR must conduct a complete interview with the caller and then call the Circle call center to provide the information verbally. So it has to be repeated. This delays PSRs from answering other 911 calls while waiting to communicate the information.
Captain, before you continue, I'd like to hear whether the commissioners have any questions regarding the D.D. Hirsch program or the Circle program. Dr. Suthers?
Absolutely.
Thank you. And thank you for the presentation thus far. The first question I have about D.D. Hirsch. So again, these are professionals. They're experts at handling these calls. Was that a 911 call that we listened to? And some are not. Go ahead.
Speak.
Yes, that was initially an 911 call that comes in directly to 911, and then the 911 operator will assess the caller.
Right. So you're leading to my question, which is, does that call give you location of the call?
Yes, as an 911 call, we will get the ANI location and number as well.
Okay, thank you, because obviously the conversation went on for a while, and I was just wondering, where is that person? So if you know where it is because of the source of the call, then we've got it already, correct? Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Garcia?
Yeah, thank you so far. Quick question, you mentioned that there is the need to repeat the information. Have we looked at any technology that's available that can transition or transfer that information in real time, or at least at a faster rate?
So what we're currently working on is trying to figure out a way that we can kind of follow a similar process that we're using with UMCR, which is where we create an incident and then just transfer it over to Circle so that they can already have the information with them and they can go ahead and dispatch their respondents to the location. That way it expedites the information. So we basically create an incident through our CAD system that then has all the information that we just transfer over to the responding entity.
Thank you. The other question was in the first call, the D.D. Hirsch call, there was a hold in elevator music. Is that typical? And I asked that, have we looked at or talked to any psychiatrist or suicide specialist to see if just the fact that there's elevator music can be disruptive versus silence or another type of voiceover sound?
We haven't spoken to any therapists in terms of how that music would affect them. It does happen. We would like to say more than what we would like. Based on the call load that we get, obviously they have a certain amount of operators that are there available to answer the calls that we transfer over to them. We do run into issues where sometimes we can't get a hold of somebody, so we have to dispatch anyways. Ultimately, what we're trying to do is trying to provide a service. And we're trying to provide some type of help to the citizen that's calling the department, whether we're able to get an operator to answer the phone and speak to them, or if we're able to leave a voicemail and then try to see if they can send somebody else out there, or if we dispatch officers to the location.
Thank you.
Thank you. Captain, you may continue.
Okay. So based on the statistics provided by D.D. Hirsch, oh, wait a second. Oh, sorry, lost my place. These calls are much more time consuming, as you could tell. There have been additional challenges due to the city's contractual changes with vendor services. Communications Division no longer receives data from Circle's programs managers each deployment period on the number of diverted calls handled by them and their outcomes. So I understand that these are contracted services that are not contracted with LAPD. They're outside of us. So the information sharing obviously is limited to whatever contract is signed either through the CAO or the mayor's office. Urban Alchemy distributed these reports as a part of their contractual agreement. However, that agreement ended on March 31st of this year. So the last data set showed Circle handling 3,555 calls. Communication Division continues to provide the number of outbound calls made from Communications Division, our dispatch center, to Circle's call center each week as part of the diversion-related weekly statistics report that the Department Operations Center emails out. 2025 is on pace to exceed the number of outbound calls to Circle compared to last year. Lastly, we have UMCR. The program began in March of 2024 with just 3 divisions, each within its own specific subcontractor. Those are Alcott, Exodus, and Penny Lane. The program expanded to 3 additional areas in October of 2024. Currently, their area of coverage does not overlap with the areas covered by the Circle program. However, plans are in place for this to change in the future as UMCR expands. UMCR focuses on providing behavioral health services, crisis intervention, and resolution services to all members of the community. They offer 24/7 services and have limited exclusionary criteria for response. The exclusionary criteria are violent crime in progress, immediate threat of violence and or weapons involved, incidents requiring medical attention, persons involved are under the age of 18, and incidents involving 3 or more individuals. Because of their limited exclusionary criteria, UMCR is more willing to accept a broader range of calls for diversion. Calls for disturbances and mental health crises can offer a wide range of scenarios. PSRs are ultimately making the decision whether to divert a call to UMCR based on the information provided by the caller and the consideration for safety for the unarmed responders. Decision can be subjective and from operator to operator. Unlike Circle, incidents for UMCR are digitally transitioned through our computer-aided dispatch system. LAPD operator creates an incident on the LAPD CAD as usual. The incident is then sent to a CAD system designated for UMCR. UMCR operator sees the incident and creates a case on their behavioral health system to dispatch a response team. UMCR operator documents the case code, unit response time, and disposition in the CAD incident. This allows our LAPD PSRs to view the status of the diverted incident if there are additional calls for the same issue. If UMCR were to direct calls back to LAPD, UMCR dispatch operators would call Communications Division to request officers to respond to a previously diverted incident. As of the end of August, Communications Division has diverted 8,547 calls with a redirect rate of just 4%. Because diverted incidents are generated through the CAD system, the number of diverted calls and redirected calls is more accurate in comparison to Circle and D.D. Hirsch. In conclusion, we'd like to, I'll stop here and see if all of you have any questions regarding UMCR before I conclude.
Commissioners, any questions? Dr. Southers?
Yes. So since you're at the end of the third program, I know in past presentations we've been able to quantify patrol officer hours saved. Were you able to do that for these programs for this presentation?
I think it'd be difficult to extrapolate how many patrol hours we could potentially save. I think part of the issue is we don't get a lot of the data back, right? We'll get the data back from UMCR. That's easy to track. When we send something to Circle or D.D. Hirsch, on the other hand, we're not getting any quantifiable metrics back. Also, you understand those resources can take a little more time than maybe possibly our boots on the ground with officers responding to calls. It wouldn't be apples for apples, but absolutely we don't have the data to quantify how many hours are being saved.
Okay. Second question I have, is there a program for community education and awareness of these armed, or I should say unarmed response options for people in the city of Los Angeles?
So as far as from the department and communication itself, we don't do any kind of outreach to the community as far as advising about these programs, but the CEO's office and through the city council members and those, they do promote the programs to make the communities aware.
So I've had the pleasure of attending a number of CPAB meetings across the city and have mentioned these programs. I think we should use CPAB as an option to message this information to communities. That would be my first recommendation. The second one I recommend perhaps working with the council district offices as well. People are supportive and pleased that these programs exist, but they can't use them if they don't know about them. So I think we should actually develop a formal program of community awareness and education if we intend to have people call this. Go ahead.
If I can add something, in regards to that, we are currently working on staffing a position that's going to be going out to the CPAB events, to community events, that's going to be specializing in informing and educating the public, not only on the diversion programs, but also the use of the non-emergency number in order to help minimize the amount of people that are calling the 911 number for non-police emergencies. So that should be taken into effect. It should take effect in about 4 weeks.
Thank you. And again, accompanied by probably a very active social media campaign as well. And if we don't have the number of patrol officer hours saved, let's at least publicly announce the number of calls that are coming in and we're managing, because that'll give the public an idea of just what kind of load we've got. And that load is obviously taken away from officers that could go to other 911 calls. So thank you.
Commissioner Garcia?
Just piggybacking a little bit on Commissioner Souther's comments regarding tracking the people hours that are saved in the department side, whether it's the department that would track it or the providers that would track it. And really, it would be to show the return on investment. And understandably, it's hard to track something you're not doing, you're not responding to, but there are ways to build profiles. On average, this type of situation would take this many hours if an officer or set of officers were to deploy to it, so that we can, again, sort of compare the return on investment there. Thank you.
Thank you.
In conclusion, we'd like to thank the Board of Police Commissioners and Chief McDonald for the opportunity to present these programs. Our goal is to better serve the members of the community experiencing mental health crises and homelessness while leaving officers available for emergencies. The challenge of the PSRs lay in the overwhelming responsibility of being a decision point for all these various alternative response programs. Because each program has its own set of criteria, 911 operators face a complex process that can slow down decision-making in high-pressure situations. We envision a future where the public can call a specialized number staffed by clinicians, crises practitioners, and outreach specialists instead of always defaulting to 911. Thank you to the board and our PSRs, the unsung heroes who handle these difficult calls every day. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think that goes a long way, the community awareness program and a more comprehensive look into it. So thank you very much for the report.
Next, we have agenda item 4B, Department's Report dated August 27, 2025, relative to the 2024 Use of Force Year-End Review. This is continued from the September 9th agenda. Presenting, we have Captain Pleggy.
Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, Chief, Inspector General, Executive Director, Mr. De La Guerra. Last week, I forgot to introduce my partners up here. So I am Captain Pleggy, the Commanding Officer, Critical Incident Review Division. This is Sergeant Secor. He is the adjutant at Critical Incident Review Division and plays a key role in the production of the end-of-year report. And to his right is Lieutenant Kiefer, who is our non-categorical use of force OIC. So with that, I'm here to follow up on the book from 2 weeks ago. So as you know, you've had the use of force year-end review, and so after review, I'm eagerly hoping that we could get that published and then out for public consumption through the department's website.
Okay, you may proceed.
That is my presentation, ma'am. You have the book, and we're waiting for approval for the
Well, before we approve Captain Pleggy, I'd like to see if any commissioner here has a question. Commissioner Garcia?
Yeah, so on page 124, the department lists the statistics regarding toxicology analysis. And I'm curious if you can share a little bit more about that breakdown And then specifically, how we're training or what we're educating officers on regarding the effects of methylphenidate.
The effects of, I didn't catch the last.
Yeah, so the effects of the use of meth, because 75% in 2023, right? 75% of descendants had a positive test for that. So again, page 124. So I'm curious, what is it that the department has learned in terms of individuals who are on meth and their behavior, and how we can potentially interact with those folks in a specific way or in a different way?
Right, so from a broad perspective, and this is a question probably better directed for training and perhaps maybe the next agenda item where we're going to get into some of the training issues. But from a broad perspective, the department does train our officers on just broader de-escalation efforts, command and control efforts, and through those de-escalation efforts, the identification of people who may be under the influence of a narcotic like methamphetamine, and then utilize the appropriate tactical de-escalation techniques when they can identify those things, specifically to these toxicology numbers. And this comes from the categorical use of force numbers, which and specifically OISs, which, as you know, happen so rapidly and quickly. Under those circumstances, we don't have the specific numbers of whether or not the officers perceived the folks in which they engaged an officer-involved shooting with were under the influence of the methamphetamine or any of these drugs. These numbers come specifically from toxicology tests post-incident.
Thank you. And so that's kind of what I'm getting at, is because there's such a large percentage of individuals who are on meth, maybe there is some kind of training or education that can be implemented so that the signs, and again, it's the experts, the signs of someone who potentially is on meth are recognized, and potentially the incident itself is handled a little different.
Don't disagree, and our training does address that. And again, these are categorical use of force and officer-involved shooting specifically. So inherent to those, it's when officers are acting in a manner that's necessary, sort of a last resort. So to the extent that they engage in the de-escalation efforts that we train our officers on to prevent the escalation of force, those inform our officers on how to deal with folks that not only might be under the influence of a narcotic or of a substance, but also those that are experiencing mental health issues or any other issues that the officers confront, so that they can take the opportunity to have a plan, assess the situation, make sure that they take the time that they can so that they can make additional assessments, bring additional resources to bear in those issues, whether somebody's under the influence or suffering from a mental crisis or maybe just has a desire to attack the police.
Thank you.
Commissioner Suthers?
No questions for me. I'm going to address my questions in item 4C.
I do have a question, Captain Plugi, and it has to do with a discussion about the use of the 40 millimeter less lethal launcher. For 2024, we see a significant increase in the use of the 40 millimeter launcher. What does this suggest to you? Why the increase? We had 75 cases in 2023. We have 102 in 2024. What is your analysis?
So I think the use of not just the 40 millimeter, but all our intermediate force tools have to be taken in the context of what was occurring in the year that we're evaluating. One is our officer-involved shootings were reduced in 2024. We were at 29. So if we're operating under the premise that early intervention with intermediate force options perhaps could prevent the need for a situation to escalate to the use of deadly force, that could explain some of the increases as it relates to the use of intermediate force options. That would also correspond with the rollout of the modification of our tactics directive as it relates to not just the 40 millimeter, but also our intermediate force tools. So as you recall, our tactics directive had changed in 2023 from the use of these intermediate force options from when officers perceive an immediate threat to expanding the use of the tool to not only when they perceive an immediate threat, but also if they have a reasonable articulation that the situation could lead to the use of lethal force if they don't intervene with these tools. So sort of an expansion of our tactics directive and hopefully the fruits of our labor as an organization to train our officers to use more decisive force earlier to prevent the need to use lethal force where that's appropriate.
Thank you. Does that fit with the expectation that officers de-escalate whenever it's safe before the use?
It does. In fact, these tools and these intermediate force tools can be seen as de-escalation tools and de-escalation efforts. So de-escalation is to reduce the intensity of an incident or reduce the need for a higher level of force. So if we're introducing intermediate force options as a way to prevent an incident from escalating to the need for the use of lethal force, then it is considered as one of those de-escalation tools.
Any further questions from the commissioners? All right. I think are you making a motion?
I don't know if I'm in a position to make a motion but I would gladly make a motion that the board accept the report for publication.
Well, maybe I'll make a motion.
Yes, ma'am.
So the motion would be that the commission accepts the department's report dated August 27th, 2025, relative to the 2024 use of force year-end review, as set forth and discussed. Is there a second?
I second.
Vote? Any opposition?
None.
I'll say yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Madam Secretary?
Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Next, we have agenda item 4C.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Department's report relative to training regarding the use of deadly force and following deadly force incidents. We have Chief Embrick, Chief Psychologist Dr. Dorian, and Captain Pleggy.
Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning. Chief McDonald, Inspector General, Mr. Sidney, and our legal counsel. I'm Deputy Chief Embrick. I'm the new Chief of Training Bureau. Remaining for this presentation is going to be Captain Matt Pleggy, Commanding Officer of Frequency Review Division, and joining us for the presentation is our Chief Psychologist for the department. So anyway, this presentation is going to be on our how we deliver training regarding deadly use of force, as well as how we react to changes in deadly use of force, and we form policy and deliver that to training and make sure that that person that we're carrying that on in the field. Anyway, the Los Angeles Police Department recognizes the profound responsibility that accompanies the authority to use deadly force. Our approach is grounded in training, continuous analysis, and accountability. The specific question posed by the board in regard to how do we manage deadly force. So this presentation is going to highlight that through training provided to officers regarding deadly force. And secondly, we're going to talk about the department's ongoing process to analyze incidents as they occur. We will walk you through an overview of that comprehensive review. And so that is the slide that you see above you presented on the screen right now. So I'm going to start with academy training, just so we start with the same understanding of what the baseline is for officers. First, every LAPD officer starts their career at the LAPD Academy, where they receive 904 hours during the recruit basic course. Of that 904 hours, approximately 150 hours includes training that's specific to deadly force, namely in laws, firearms training, and tactics, use of force training. It's one of the most sensitive topics that recruits receive instruction on, and so they receive extensive instruction in 4 pillars. So that has to do with constitutional law, namely the Fourth Amendment, also state law, namely California Penal Code 835A, LAPD Department Policy, and ethical expectations. Reverence for human life is the guiding policy behind all LAPD use of force policies. During recruit training, we bring this policy instruction to life through realistic scenario-based training, ensuring understanding of these policies to build decision-making under stress and promote accountability and consistency in our use of force policies throughout the department. This training doesn't stop in the academy. Our officers receive in-service training throughout their careers. The department conducts in-service training on deadly force to ensure officers remain proficient, current, and accountable. Most notably, one of the things that department added in 2017 was a PSL program, or the Police Sciences and Leadership Program, in which we bring officers back who have completed a probationary period for 2 weeks of additional training. So now these are officers who have real life experience in the field, and we bring it back and review academics with them. So they go through, they are exposed to advanced leadership training, additional investigative skills training, command and control, and we also have them attend, out of the 1 week training, is the mental health intervention training, which was developed in partnership with LA County Department of Health and the Mental Evaluation Unit. We discuss laws, departmental policies, community expectations as they evolve, requiring officers to continually refresh their knowledge of constitutional standards, applicable California Penal Code sections, and department policy. This recurring training is essential not only for compliance, but also for building consistency across the department, reducing risks to the public and officers alike, and demonstrating to the community that the LAPD respects use of deadly force as a last resort, subject to constant scrutiny and professional development. Secondly, the LAPD conducts oversight with the department's use of deadly force, and the board is key in this process because you guys review every single one of the categorical uses of force that we review. It's through a continuous analysis of both categorical and non-categorical use of force that we ensure consistency. We also identify issues in policy that may arise. I'm going to hand it over to Captain Pluggy, who's going to walk you through the categorical use of force review process.
So each individual officer-involved shooting incident is assessed individually in and of itself, and there's a cumulative analysis done on the totality of all the circumstances. This effort, I just want to note out, is only made possible by the detailed and comprehensive investigations that are conducted by the Force Investigation Division. Their investigation process is recognized as the model for law enforcement across the nation. It provides the foundation that allows us to identify lessons learned, implement improvements, and ensure accountability. So the chart that you see behind you, or it's presented there, is illustrative of the path that OIS incidents take through the process of the occurrence through the ultimate adjudication. The evaluation process for every officer-involved shooting begins almost immediately following an officer-involved shooting. While the immediate focus is the management of resources to resolve the event, ensure the safety and wellness of all involved, Force Investigation Division begins their investigation during this process. Force Investigation begins their investigation, and during this process, the following people respond. The involved employee's commanding officer, along with a senior staff officer from the involved employee's bureau and office. These command and staff members immediately begin evaluating the available evidence to identify any tactical concepts that may need reinforcement through training. Representatives from the department's civilian oversight body, the Office of Inspector General, responds and conduct their own independent investigation and evaluation of the incident. Investigators from the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office respond to evaluate the incidents, and where appropriate, representatives from the California State Department of Justice as well. After this initial response and evaluation of the preliminary information, the department convenes a critical incident executive brief, which was formally termed the 72-hour brief. The purpose of this initial briefing is for the Chief of Police to make a preliminary assessment of the incident, identify any initial concerns, and address any department trends. During this review, the Chief of Police, the department's senior staff, including all office directors, the First Assistant Chief, the Commanding Officer of Training Bureau, and representatives from the Office of Inspector General receive an initial presentation from Force Investigation Division on the facts known at this very early stage. The involved officers command then, working in collaboration with their bureau and their office, identify performance factors that must be addressed with the officer during a general training update before the involved officer may return to their pre-incident duties. During this process, broader policy, tactical concepts, training standards, or equipment issues, if any, are identified and addressed. It should be noted that before any officer involved in the application of lethal force by discharging their firearm may return to duty, they must remain assigned to non-field duties during a mandatory 14-day administrative wait period. During this period, the officer must attend the general training update covering basic mandatory topics, as well as any additional training that's directed by the Chief of Police. The officer must participate in at least one mandatory session with the professionals from the Department's Behavioral Science Services. And finally, they must be evaluated by their commanding officer for clearance to return to duty. At the 240-day mark of these incidents, the investigation from Force Investigation Division is submitted to Critical Incident Review Division, where we prepare it for its final adjudication process. During this process, Critical Incident Review Division identifies tactical concepts involved in the incident, as well as the corresponding training and performance standards to prepare the chair of the Use of Force Review Board for the review and initial recommended findings. This process is a more detailed review of the incident than that which occurs during the executive briefing, and serves as an additional avenue to identify training, policy, and equipment issues specific to the incident or from broader department perspective. The Use of Force Review Board consists of 4 senior staff members and a peer member. The Use of Force Review Board reviews the case and provides the Chief of Police with the recommended findings, as well as areas that are identified for improvement through the tactical debrief process. In addition, the board can request for specific actions related to the review and assessment of any department training standard or policy that may be necessary. These recommendations are reviewed by the Chief of Police, who evaluates the very detailed investigation from Force Investigation Division, and then considers the recommendations from the Use of Force Review Board. He then provides his findings to the Board of Police Commissioners. The Board of Police Commissioners, as you know, considers the recommendations of the Chief of Police as well as the independent recommendations of the Inspector General, and make their final determination on the findings related to any officer-involved shooting. The final resolution of each incident requires every employee directed by the Chief of Police and or the Board of Police Commissioners to attend a tactical debrief which serves to address identified issues that need addressing during the adjudication process. This review and evaluation process informs the Department of trends and issues related to officer-involved shootings. Any training recommendations that emerge are managed through Training Bureau, and Training Bureau addresses these concerns the concerns that are identified in individual incidents and issues that relate broad to the broader department through Training Division, which I'll kick it back to Chief Embrick to address.
Yeah, so as mentioned by Captain Pluggy, so every one of these categorical use of force incidents automatically triggers a minimum of 2 training events, which is the general training update, as he mentioned, occurs usually within 2 weeks of the incident, as well as a tactical debrief, which is presented after the Use of Force Review Board findings. In certain cases where we discover some deficiencies, officers also receive directed training that can be sometimes presented at their home division or in some cases by academy instruction. So also key to this categorical use of force review process is an assessment by Behavioral Sciences Services. And so I will pass it over to Dr. Dorian.
Good morning, everyone. Inspector General, Chief, Executive Director, Commissioners, thank you for having us this morning. I'm Dr. Edric Dorian, and thanks for the opportunity to close out this presentation by highlighting how the department supports officers in the aftermath of deadly force or deadly use of force or other critical incidents, particularly OISs, officer-involved shootings. So you've already heard how we investigate and learn from these incidents. I'd like to focus on what happens behind the scenes, how we support involved officers and help them return to duty in a way that's safe, ethical, and sustainable. I also want to highlight the broader role of police psychologists in the LAPD in promoting officer and community safety, not only through clinical care, but as behavioral science advisors embedded throughout the department. In my role as Chief Police Psychologist and Commanding Officer of Behavioral Science Services, I provide consultation at the executive, command, and policy levels, helping shape department-wide approaches to training, risk management, and organizational wellness. And my amazing team of staff psychologists complements this work by delivering direct clinical services. They also provide organizational training and operational consultation and divisional level advisement. ensuring that psychological expertise is integrated across both strategic and operational domains in the department. So after an OIS, or major use of force, or categorical use of force, every substantially involved officer, whether they discharge their weapon or not, is scheduled for a mandatory confidential debriefing. It's with a licensed police psychologist in-house, and this occurs no sooner than about 48 hours after the incident, allowing time for rest, stabilization, and consultation with legal counsel and other advisors. This is not a fitness for duty evaluation. It's not about judgment or discipline. It's about support. We assess how the officer is adjusting emotionally, cognitively, and behaviorally. We talk about sleep, stress, and coping. We provide psychoeducation because knowing one's reactions are normal can be deeply grounding. It's also the case that the aftermath of the incident can sometimes be as stressful or even more stressful than the incident itself. If the officer is doing well, they may be cleared to return to pre-incident duties. If they're struggling, we may recommend temporary duty modifications, such as time off, reassignment, or follow-up sessions. The goal is to support recovery, not to sideline unnecessarily. And whenever possible, it's a collaborative process between the officer and the police psychologist. For officers who applied force, BSS provides follow-up sessions at key milestones in the post-incident process. At a minimum, officers are seen in the immediate aftermath, as I described, around the time of the public release of the critical incident video, and around the time of their use of force review board. These moments are often psychologically significant, not just because of external scrutiny, but because they can reactivate stress, raise new questions, or challenge the officer's sense of identity and purpose. By meeting at these intervals, we help officers process evolving reactions, reinforce healthy coping, and assess ongoing readiness. Additional sessions are always available based on need, but these 3 touch points represent the minimum standard of care that every officer receives. And this approach reflects our belief that psychological adjustment is not a one-time event, but a process that unfolds over time. Now, confidentiality is key. Clinical content is not shared with command. The only feedback provided is operational, whether the officer was seen, since it's on duty, and whether the session was completed. Lastly, if there are any short-term adjustments that are recommended, those could be made to the commanding officer, but ultimately it's the commanding officer that will make that determination. We don't impose restrictions. They're simply recommendations. This approach complies fully with Peace Officer Bill of Rights and the legal precedent set by Pettis versus Cole. Our psychologists are not part of internal affairs or other investigations. Their role is to support recovery and readiness. In addition to post-incident care, police psychologists also provide real-time decision-making during SWAT callouts involving crisis negotiations. All LAPD police psychologists serve on the crisis negotiation team, providing on-scene consultation to SWAT command, evaluating subject behavior, advising on negotiation strategy, and monitoring team stress. While this model remains rare in the profession, this embedded approach reflects LAPD's commitment to life preservation and ethical policing. And it deepens our understanding of the psychological demands officers face, which directly informs how we assess readiness and recovery after critical incidents. Now, a couple of examples of police psychology insights impacting training and policy. A notable example is our broader impact in the 2019 Tactical Disengagement Training Bulletin, which is being updated at this time. At that time, I personally served as the psychologist consultant to Metropolitan Division and worked closely with then SWAT Officer in Charge, Lieutenant Ruben Lopez. And together we led efforts to clarify disengagement as a strategic professional tactic, a deliberate decision to preserve life and reduce risk, both to subjects and officers. Some officers initially viewed disengagement as walking away, which conflicted with their identity as protectors. We helped them work through the moral conflict in a way that respected their values and mission to protect and to serve. At the same time, a more recent observation reveals a different kind of tension since 2020. Through post-incident debriefings, police psychologists have noted that some officers now express a heightened sense of hesitation, particularly in rapidly evolving situations, due to concerns about legal, administrative, and reputational consequences. This hesitation, while understandable, can also introduce operational risk, potentially delaying action in situations where swift, decisive intervention is necessary to protect life. Officers are weighing not only the tactical demands of the moment, but also the long-term implications of their decisions. While these two examples may seem to pull in opposite directions, one encouraging tactical restraint while the other reflecting concern about acting at all, I bring them up because they actually illustrate the increasing complexity of modern policing. Officers are being asked to navigate a broader range of expectations where strategic disengagement and decisive action both have their place depending on the context. And while training, equipment, and professionalism are essential, we also need a clear-eyed understanding of what it means to expect human beings under stress in real time to perfectly balance these competing demands. Even the best prepared officers face cognitive, emotional, and ethical strain in these moments. And recognizing those limits is not an excuse, it's a prerequisite for building systems, policies, and cultures that support realistic, sustainable, and accountable performance, which police psychologists could play a greater role in. So in closing, the LAPD police psychologists serve to preserve the well-being and effectiveness of our personnel, which in turn supports the communities we serve. When officers feel supported and not just scrutinized, they're more likely to trust leadership, stay engaged, and act ethically. This reinforces internal procedural justice, which is as important as external procedural justice. And for officers, this is the belief that the organization treats its members fairly and invests in their well-being. That perception drives morale, improves retention, and strengthens our ability to recruit the next generation of officers, those who want to serve in an agency that values both tactical excellence and psychological resilience. Thank you again for the opportunity to share this work, and I'm happy to answer any questions alongside my colleagues.
Thank you. Let's move to Vice President Suthers. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you all for this detailed report. Chief, thank you for the written report. And Dr. Dorian, thank you and your staff for the important service that they provide these officers all year round. I do have a couple of questions. First, my one is one of an acronym challenge. What's SIP?
SIP is substantially involved person. So when we present a case to the board, who then, those are the folks that get adjudicated by the board as well as yourselves.
Okay, thank you. So on page 2 of the chief's report, it's identified that there's a mandatory administrative wait period. How long is that wait period? At least, what's the minimum?
14 days when involved in officer-involved shooting.
Okay.
And so there's multiple parts of that. 14 days is the mandatory minimum, but
Mhm.
prior to returning, officers have to have a meeting with our professionals from BSS. They have to wait 14 days, and they also are required to attend the general training update. So if all of that occurs within those 14 days, once that 14-day mark has been met, the officer, after consultation or review by their commanding officer, can be returned to the field, but no sooner.
So the second question is a two-part. Give me an example of non-field activities that they could be, or non-field duties they could be assigned to, and are they assigned to a non-field duty in their division?
So officers, it's at the discretion of the commanding officer. The officers can be assigned at home, special detail,
Okay. Mhm.
or they can be assigned to conduct administration or actually catch up with their training.
Okay. So, Dr. Dorian, what happens if BSS determines that the officer is not cleared to return to duty? There have been officers, as you well know, that after a shooting, they can't come back. So what happens if you don't clear them to come back?
So initially, if we find that it's not in their best interest, which ultimately means it's not in the best interest of the department, their peers, the community, then we will make a recommendation to the commanding officer that they not be returned, our exact language is not be returned to pre-incident duties or field duties. It's sometimes means that they can still work and work inside, just not in a field capacity. Other times it may mean that we're recommending some sort of time off, for which the commanding officer has options. There isn't just a one-size-fits-all approach to how that's handled. Our hope is that it's temporary. In the vast majority of the cases, it's a matter of a week or two.
Okay.
Sometimes a little bit more than that. It's very, very rare that it's longer than that. If it becomes an issue that is more prolonged, then we start to have some serious conversations about their fitness for duty. Not in the sense that we conduct that evaluation, but we want to make sure that the officer understands that potential is there by the department. Ultimately, they have to be able to continue in their normal duties. And so, again, extraordinarily rare that it gets to that, but ultimately if the department decides after, let's say, months of inability to return to duty, there may be the possibility of considering a referral for a fitness for duty evaluation, which takes place outside of the department. That's conducted by personnel department, City of Los Angeles Personnel Department, and their occupational psychologists. So police psychologists never conduct that.
Okay.
But again, I really cannot think of very many cases in my 20 years that it got to that.
Okay. Are partner officers also available, or also eligible to take advantage of BSS for counseling and fitness?
Thank you for asking that. So today we're discussing situations that require the command to mandate the officers attend. And so if they're substantially involved, they all will attend whether they applied force or not, as long as they were intimately involved in the incident. For some of those officers, it'll be a one-time meeting. And for those that applied force, it'll be that minimum of 3 that I described. All of them could be seen more, depending on need. Outside of this process, every single LAPD employee can seek self-referred services at any time.
Thank you. So my last question is about an item on page 2. It's the last paragraph where it says, this review and evaluation process informs the department on any trends or issues related to OIS incidents. So when are those trends identified and then shared with us? I mean, for example, the chief mentioned today we've got 34 officer-involved shootings this year versus 21 last year. If my math's right, that's about a 62% increase. So when does this become a trend that we can say, we've got an issue, what is it, and how do we respond to it?
So these trends can be identified anytime during the categorical use of force process, and sometimes these trends are not identified due to a singular use of force because we just have a pattern of one. Oftentimes, they're identified by the board, use of force review board, because they get to review every single one of the use of force that is presented. And actually, Captain Pluggy and his staff are very key in that because they also review every single, not only categorical use of force, but non-categorical use of force. So very often they identify policy gaps, tactical deficiencies, and many times equipment issues. So an example of like an equipment issue would be like we had a taser holster which collapsed. So therefore officers carried it in a different way. And we resolved that by deploying a different type of holster which retains its shape. So oftentimes when we identify these broader concerns, we go back and review policy oversight, and policy oversight is just not dictated by a single person. We refer to our constitutional advisors, which include our city attorneys, sometimes the district attorneys, and oftentimes the department risk manager, which the position is getting filled right now. Additionally, there's also the tactics and training review committee, which I chair. So whenever there are changes or revisions to our use of force review policy, this board reviews and comes up with recommendations to the chief of police for any of those revisions, and that board is attended by Captain Pluggy as the commanding officer, Critical Incident Review Division. We also have the commanding officer training division, as well as representatives from the risk management group, as well as the city attorney's office and other subject matter experts. Once a policy is revised, Then we send out notifications because we want all of our personnel to be aware of that. And that includes dissemination through training bulletins. If something is time imminent, the chief of police himself may message that through a chief of police's video message. We also have standardized roll call training, and information is disseminated through the Department Operations Center, as well as our training events.
So obviously, as has been expressed by this commission a number of times, the number of officer-involved shootings is of deep concern. We're paying close attention to that, as well as the number of officer-involved shootings involving individuals with edge weapons. And so my question about how many incidents qualifies as a trend, the edge weapon issue is certainly something that we've talked about quite frequently. We want to make sure that we are paying attention to those incidents. And if there's a policy issue, if there is a tactical issue that we should address, please identify it for us so we can discuss it and meet with the chief and determine if the change needs to be made. We know that these things happen in groups sometimes, but this year, again, because of the increase, it's certainly getting public attention as well as our attention. We will work with you if there's something we can do to mitigate these instances from happening at all. So that's all I have, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Commissioner Garcia?
Yeah,
Commissioner Garcia?
Yep, thank you. So you mentioned that there's a decision to assign non-field duties. Do the psychologists have any influence on what is an appropriate non-field duty for that specific officer, or is it only the CO?
I would say that that's usually a collaborative discussion between the commanding officer and the psychologist. So psychologists have a good sense of what the options are because they're embedded and in the field very often and having these conversations routinely. But every division is different, personnel needs are different, the opportunities are different. So often we're asking the commanding officer to share with us what those options might be for them. And then together we might say, among those options, we might recommend X, Y, or Z. So again, it's a collaborative discussion,
Okay.
but ultimately the commanding officer will make that determination.
Yeah. And then in terms of the 3 touch points, what's the timeline or timing of those 3 touch points?
So the timeline is somewhere between points 1 and 3 up there as the initial appointment. So typically after about 48 hours, we want them to have 2 sleep cycles before the first session, so they have an opportunity to consolidate their thoughts and feelings and have a better sense of what they're thinking and feeling. So normally it's going to be within a week of the incident for that first appointment, typically 3 to 5 days out. And then the video must be released within 45 days. I think our pattern is to release it usually within 30 days. And so that next appointment will usually be scheduled about 30 days out from the incident. Again, if we see that the officer needs or would like additional support, that too will be provided in the interim. So these are just minimums. And so that'll be about 30 days out. And then the next one will be many months out, closer to the Use of Force Review Board, which can vary from approximately, 6 to 9 months out?
No sooner than 240 days, but
As I said, no sooner than 240.
so somewhere between the 240-day and 300-day mark from the date of the incident.
Okay. And then, so you mentioned possibility of an individual needing more services. What does that look like, and who?
It can vary, but if an officer is reporting significant sleep disruption, that's a very high risk factor for many reasons. If they're reporting extreme hypervigilance, meaning that their nervous system activation is really high and they haven't sort of downshifted from the incident, if you will, which again usually goes hand in hand with sleep problems. If they have significant concerns about being involved in another use of force, whether that's due to fear, physical fear, or fear of consequences, other consequences. So it can really vary, but anytime it's clear that it's having a negative functional impact on the officer, whether the officer, typically the officer recognizes this, him or herself, and is very self-disclosing about it. And so we're partnering to assist them navigate this hopefully temporary time. But if it ever occurs that the officer is acknowledging these things, but then saying, I'd like to return to the field, we will take a more motivational approach to say, let's talk about why that's probably not a good idea. And again, I really cannot think of examples where we're not able to collaboratively come to that decision, because the officer understands our goal is to preserve their well-being, preserve their career, help them do what they love to do, which is to protect and to serve. And so it works extraordinarily well, and it's worth noting that these are protocols that we've had in place for decades. You know, the LAPD has provided psychological services for 57 years.
Thank you for sharing that last point. My question was going to be, and so maybe it's not a question anymore, but is do we need to increase the mandatory minimums? But it sounds like taking that collaborative effort, for the most part, is achieving the right dosage of service in sessions.
It's my professional opinion through my own direct experience as a frontline police psychologist for many years, and also now as a commanding officer, that our protocols are sound. We have the flexibility to apply them as needed, but the minimums are, important to maintain.
Thank you.
Anything? I do have a question, and I want to thank Chief Embrick, Dr. Dorian, and Captain Pluggy for this very insightful report. I wanted to touch on incidents where we have an officer that may have been involved in more than one officer-involved shooting. Can you elaborate how work histories, how patterns of conduct, and things like that would factor into this process for an officer?
So at every general training or every critical incident executive brief, as well as at the final adjudication phase, there's an evaluation, and actually an ongoing evaluation of every officer's work history as we review any incident that they're involved in. But as you are aware, we have had instances where officers have been involved in multiple categorical uses of force in relatively short periods of time. And we look at the officer's history, we assess their work history, we work closely with behavioral science services, we assess each individual incident of its own merit, and then also cumulatively for a couple of different reasons. One is not just whether or not the officer performed as expected and up to our standards on each individual incident, but the cumulative effect of those incidents on the wellness of an involved employee and how it will affect their future performance is taken into account very keenly and will be addressed by the chief of police or any one of the command to perhaps maybe a timeout isn't the best description of what we might provide for an officer, but provide them with alternatives to enhance their career that are somewhere other than in the field operations specifically related to uniform assignments. Beauty of this department is that there's so many varied and wonderful assignments that we have people clamoring to participate in. And so we're very fortunate in this organization that where we identify an officer for whatever reason, whether it's a performance issue or a long-term issue as far as their wellness, that we can reassign and provide them with other professional opportunities to advance themselves and provide service to the city.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the department's report?
Yes, motion is to approve the department's report dated September 17th, 2025, relative to training regarding use of deadly force and following deadly force incidents. Is there a second?
Second.
Anything further? Any further discussion? Vote? All approve?
Aye.
Very well.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you. The Board of Police Commissioners will now
Thank you very much.
will now recess into closed session to discuss agenda items 5A1 and 5A2 in accordance with Government Code 54957.
You may proceed, Madam Secretary.
Madam President, we're now back from closed session. We're in open session. We'll have a report out from the Executive Director.
So Commissioners, with regard to item 5A, at the regular meeting of the Board of Police Commissioners on September 23rd, 2025, during the closed session, the board made the following findings in each case by a 3-0 vote. So 5A1, which is officer-involved shooting 049-24. For tactics, tactical debrief, 1 Sergeant 1, 3 police officers 2, and 1 police officer 1. For drawing an exhibition of a firearm, in policy, no further action, 2 police officers 2. For non-lethal use of force, in policy, no further action, 1 police officer 2 and 1 police officer 1. And for lethal use of force, in policy, no further action, 2 police officers 2. And then to 5A2, which is officer-involved animal shooting 050-24. For tactics, tactical debrief, 1 police officer 2. For drawing an exhibition of a firearm, in policy, no further action, 1 police officer 2. And for lethal use of force, in policy, no further action, 1 police officer 2. And that concludes the reports out, Madam President.
The commission meeting is adjourned.